added all of these. Now, what I'm going to do to mimic this is I'll try and see if I can. Let us see here. I'll try and see if I can. Log in from here, I suppose. I'll go to journals.unza.zm to see if I'll be able to. I think one of these accounts is what I'm going to log into here as using this account so that I see. And then I'll go to the Journal of Research in Nursing here. You see this? This is what the reviewer sees. Okay? In my queue here, I see here that waiting for a response from the reviewer. This is me. They're telling me. And all of you that have been added as reviewers, right? Manuel, Patricia, Concepta, you will see this as well on your dashboard, right? And you're telling the reviewer to say, your response is required by the 12th of September, and the review itself should be submitted by the 9th of September. Okay, so I'll click here, and then you notice there's a workflow for the reviewer, right? There's the details, right? You've been selected as a potential reviewer, yada, yada, yada. There's the article title and the abstract, and the file itself. Okay? Another information here like, editor request, response, and all those things. And then I'll say accept. The expectation here is accept. Not everybody is going to accept. Some reviewers may decline. In this case, I don't know if I should accept or decline so that you see what happens. Don't know. But I will accept. When I accept, it's a workflow again, right? You notice the reviewer workflow. As first there's a request, there are guidelines, you download the file and review, and then you complete. In this case here, and I want to suggest, because I'm transitioning to a different meeting at 17 hours, but we'll have to continue this because there's quite a lot involved, and I just realized that we don't yet have a reviewer form. These guidelines that are on stage 2 here are supposed to be guidelines that the reviewer is supposed to follow. I'm sure you know what I mean. You know how you ask things like, what can you state whether there's anything novel about this? Let me show you some sample guidelines. I guess I wish I could showcase some sample guidelines here. Okay, I may not be able to do this, but there's I think you know what I mean, right? You're typically expected to specify a reviewer form. Let me see if I can.
Dr. Phiri, yes, we do have actually, we do have the guidelines, okay. Just that everything was physical or whether it's hard copy or whatever.
Yes. Oh, sorry. By the way, sorry, you know, I was sitting there and I was thinking you're studying this journal for the first time, but I just remembered you're transitioning from print, right, to electronic. So obviously there's a reviewer form. Now, if there's a reviewer form, right, if you want, we can build this together the next time we meet. You can share the reviewer form in advance. I don't know when you'd want us to meet. You can share it in advance. We do it together. It's a once-off thing. Or you can designate 1 or 2 people that I can meet with even maybe tomorrow or Monday or something before we meet next, so that we set up this form. Because what the reviewer sees on step number 2 is the form itself or the guidelines to say, oh, when you're reviewing, these are the things that you should be following through. Okay, so I'll continue next. In number 3 here, the guidelines, by the way, it's a form, it's a document actually, right? Under download and review is where you're supposed to have a form. Now you notice here that the default form here has very weird things where you're just saying enter just generic text about the article, right? And then enter any other information for the editor alone. So maybe for the editor alone, you'd say, I don't think we should publish this article in its current form. We must make sure that we have the reviewers specify details about ethical clearance approval because this information is missing. The details you put on top here would be things that you want the authors to see. Oh, this is a very nice paper, but the changes that we think you should address, yada, 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 yada. Now, remember that if this is blind, the author will not know that this review is coming from Lighton. But if it's open, they will know that Lighton wrote this review. Okay? The form here can be changed. Right now, this is the default form here. It can be changed where you have things like on a scale of 1 to 5, how would you rate the related work? How about the introduction? How about the methodology or the results and all those things? Okay. Anyway, so phase number 4 for the reviewer is they submit the review. And you notice here that the default form also has a recommendation whether accept, revision required, resubmit, resubmit elsewhere, or decline, right? Or see comments or something. I'm going to say accept subject to corrections or something, and then just do this. So this is a workflow that the reviewer goes through. Now, granted, they won't, I'll just say this is a test. The reviewer will not do this in a single day, right? You know, they'll download the file here, maybe spend about a week, read it, sometimes annotate it, okay? And then afterwards, they would submit the review. If that makes sense. And then once you do this on the completion, the step number 4 is you're completing the review, and it's a thank you or something. So again, if I go to my view as a journal editor, observe what will happen. I'm just going to refresh this, I suppose. What you'll notice is that the reviewer called Lighton, here, the status has changed. Before, there was, request sent and response due or something. But because Lighton has responded and he sent a review, right, the journal editor, right, or the section editor will be able to see, to say, oh, the recommendation from this reviewer called Lighton is, accept subject to revisions. And then you can read the review. I hope this is kind of like making sense here. In some instances, where a reviewer has submitted an annotated document, you can upload the revisions here or something so that you share them with the user or something. I very much wanted to showcase a part where the review is due. Okay, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to edit this so that you see. Notice the response, right? Right now, this status for Emmanuel Msenge is request sent, response due on the 8th, on the 29th of August. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just make an edit here, right? As a journal edit, and say, oh, the response was actually required on the 1st of August. And then I'll say, okay. You see what the message is? It says overdue. Now, this is important because the journal editor makes important decisions based on these status messages. Like in this case, right? It's overdue. So the journal editor will not say, oh, I need to send a reminder to this person. Or not a reminder, actually, here. Here, if it's overdue, I'll just email him and ask, Emmanuel Msenge, could you tell us if you're still interested in reviewing this? And I'm sure you've, I know I've received these messages, right, where you forget and you're overwhelmed and they send follow-ups. Can you tell us if you're still interested in reviewing this work? And you say, no, give me more time or something, So, but if you realize, well, Emmanuel is not responding, and there are people like that, maybe some of you have done this. I know I've done this. I've been a culprit. I get so overwhelmed and I forget that I was supposed to send through a review, and I realize maybe a week later, maybe the editor there would have said, well, I'll unassign this reviewer. And then you send them a message. We've decided at this point to cancel your request for your review. Okay? And assign the reviewer. And you can provide more details, or you can use the default email sent so that Emmanuel knows to say, well, we had invited you, but you did not respond on time, so we've unassigned you as a reviewer. We're looking for somebody else. Okay? So quite a number of things here. Something else worth mentioning is, assuming the reviews have come, discussions must happen within the system. Imagine a situation where out of these 6 reviewers, 1 is an accept, and then 2 are maybe it's accept, it's decline or something. Maybe as a journal editor, you might say, oh, there's an interesting comment coming in from the reviewer Lighton, who said this is an accept. So you have a discussion here. You send them messages. Can you please take a look at the comment on the methodology shared by Lighton, right? And, just indicate. By the way, you can't see the other participants as reviewers because, they haven't really they haven't accepted this. But you can have a discussion. Can you see if maybe you would be willing to change your decision from a decline to maybe an accept subject to extensive changes or modifications? You have a discussion like that. Okay? Yeah, and then really, I'm trying to see if there's other things here worth mentioning. Besides reviewer discussions, it would be files, right? Files that you want to add as a reviewer, maybe files that you want to send back to the author, for instance. You would add them here. Okay? Now, the example I gave where I said in some instances, you could have a situation where there's a dispute, right? Two say it's a reject, one says it's an accept. And then after, you talk to people, maybe two say, well, this is an accept, and then one says it's a reject. You could make a decision as a journal editor, right? Or as an editorial team. I don't know what sort of procedures you follow. I know you've done this in your print-based journal. But what you do then is you create a new round of reviews. In fact, in some instances, especially when there's a consensus to say, this can be accepted subject to extensive modifications, right? Revisions are required. You create another round. Okay? Right? Create another round. In that round, it's round 2 here. Because it's a new round, you must add new reviewers. Typically, it would be the same reviewers, but you add them again here. Because if you requested the authors to make extensive changes, reviewers have to verify, right? They have to look at those changes. So you have to add the people who are going to look at those revised changes. Okay? And then once you are done, if you are happy, so after the reviews here, as an editor, if you think that the submission needs to be extensively modified, right? Even at round 2, you can request revisions from the authors. If on the other hand, you feel this work is substandard, it was submitted by a master's student who was just in a hurry and the paper really is not worth publishing because it will embarrass us as an editorial team, you say decline the submission. Otherwise, you would say accept the submission, and you then automatically inform the author, right? You inform the author, and they'll get an email message to say, your article has been accepted for publication in our journal. Okay? And then you move on to stage number 3, which is copy edit. I feel that in terms of the important details about the review stage, that's the more important stuff you need to take into account. I want to pause here and ask if there are questions and suggest that the next time we meet, we look at the reviewer form, because the reviewer form is important, right? Once you have the form here, you need to figure out exactly how you're going to consolidate the reviews coming in from the 3 authors, and maybe decide on whether you're going to add a meta review or something and make a decision. I don't know if any thoughts about the review process. You create a round, you add reviewers, you can have a discussion about the review, back and forth. You can send reminders to the reviewers. You can communicate with them by sending emails. You can unassign them. If they are not responding to you, you can edit to change the dates, important dates, like the due dates and the due dates for when they should send a response and due date for the review itself. I want to pause here and just ask if there are questions or thoughts about this.